Hello and welcome to the Open Book channel. My name is Ollie, your designated open book. I'm not a big channel, so if you're watching this, there's a fair possibility that you were also dedicated enough to watch my video on unreliable narrators when it came out. Following that video's release, I received this comment. I've blurred the username for the sake of discretion, and if I ever refer to this commenter, it will be with the initials MS. MS writes, "This is just a hard ripoff of OSP's format with a VTuber rig. Please don't let this get bigger and embarrass yourself with rampant plagiarism discussions happening over the last few months." The abbreviation OSP in this case stands for Overly Sarcastic Productions, which is a channel with over 2 million subscribers that, as they put in their channel description, provide sarcastic yet informative summaries of classic and not-so-classic literature and mythology, as well as major historical events. I know it's seen as untactful to respond to hate comments, but I'm doing so in this video because I believe the user made this statement out of genuine concern rather than automatic vitriol, and I deduce their intention as caring, not just because they said please don't embarrass myself as an act of prevention for a creator they believe was doing wrong, but because I completely understand where they're coming from. This is a foundable accusation that I should address because my video is by all means a complete ripoff of OSP's video on unreliable narrators, but that doesn't mean that I plagiarized them. Let's discuss. This conversation needs to be broken down into two parts: aesthetic and content. Aesthetics is easier to cover. As it turns out, although I'm not an avid watcher of OSP's content, their style of presentation was one of the inspirations for me as a creator when I was deciding how I wanted my channel to look and run. Another main inspiration for me was Duchess Celestia, and if I ever transition into a PNG avatar for my discussions, or draw during them like I used to, I'm sure that I'll get called a ripoff of her too. And I mentioned all this previously and openly in one of my much earlier videos when I was just starting out. As it stands now, Overly Sarcastic Productions is a PNG character sitting in an armchair in a library while they discuss literary tropes and mythological stories in a video essay format while projecting relevant images onto a projector screen. I am a VTuber in a book with a library background, and I am also putting images on a drop-down projector screen like my teachers used to do in school, because that made more sense to me than dropping colorful digital images onto a scroll, which was my first idea. The projector screen itself happened naturally and is a recent development. I was putting my VTuber in front of a background and just talking while throwing up occasional clip art, but I wanted to have a more Twitch streamer-like overlay instead, more like Celestia, which is also why I added my tags in the bottom, and this was the result. I'll be the first, or in this case, second, to admit that my setup and OSPs are very similar. That said, we are just of the same aesthetic vibe, and that can't rightfully be gatekept. If it could, I think Twitch would be a mess. No one can or has the right to tell me that I can't put my avatar in a corner while I read my video essay and display my social tags while I put random images on the screen. The contention only really comes from the fact that specifically we're both in a library with a projector, which was not an intentional aesthetic insofar as to copy an already successful predecessor. Even though OSP was an inspiration for what I wanted my channel to be, I did not intentionally set out and copy them. If I had, and this is probably pretty stupid to say, but my videos would have looked much more like this from the start. The template was always there, but I found my way into this aesthetic niche earnestly. We are similar because we're in the same niche, and this is the aesthetic that came naturally from that as I grew as a creator. When you want a librarian vibe, this is what happens, I guess. Now, this brings me onto the more relevant argument, which is content. When I published my video, it was called Trope Talk, Unreliable Narrators, which is the exact same title as OSP's video, Trope Talk, Unreliable Narrators. If that's not damning enough, of course we cover the exact same information, which I mean, based on the titles, I should hope so. Don't twist my words on that, please. As for that name correlation, whether I am to be believed or not, my choice of title was made entirely on a whim. I thought what is an unreliable narrator was too boring and thought Trope Talk sounded catchier, which has proven catchier objectively. That video has performed better than many of my others, but I'm sure that's also because it got recommended to viewers based on its copying of OSP, which is a much larger channel. When I made the title Trope Talk, I didn't go and check and see whether anyone else had used the same alliterative topic title. It was generic enough that it didn't seem important. It was entirely chance that the title ended up exactly the same, and in my opinion, that chance was high no matter what. I'm like 90% sure that I named a video of mine Trope Talk before, it just didn't get found and called out. Just like I have a comparable aesthetic, I was bound to make a video near identical in nature to OSP at some point, considering we are truly covering the same topics in the same niche of content. As for the content within the video, yes, we say almost exactly the same things in some spots. That is also an impossible similarity to avoid since I was covering the same topic. That's the nature of video essays, or essays in general. It would be a bit ridiculous to accuse me of plagiarism and ignore the whole nature of academic essays. Schooling is different nowadays, so I want to make clear that the explanation of essays I'm about to give is not meant to be derogatory. I'm sure there's many people who are not accustomed to having to write essays for their classes now. But I grew up in the school systems of the early 2000s, and so I've had to write essays a lot. There's a standard essay structure that you're expected to use, intro thesis, body of points to prove the thesis, and conclusion. And video essays share this. There's a format to the presentation of information that doesn't deviate all that much. What deviates even less is the actual information presented. In academia, we're given essay assignments to prove that we understand the material and its concepts, and that is assessed by our ability to articulately demonstrate that information. But that information itself is not new. It's not ours. We did not invent it. We only regurgitate it. In a class full of students writing essays, none of them are going to be distinctly different. And they can't be, truly, if we're doing a good job. We have to stick to what is the known objective course material. Both Overly Sarcastic Productions and I wrote a video essay on the topic of unreliable narrators, and used the same or similar source materials, which are also confined to the limitations of presenting educational information. In this case, discussing Reagan's classifications of unreliable narrators. No one essayist or creator that is doing their due diligence can ever make something that does not sound almost exactly the same as their predecessors, because none of us made up what a picaros is. And none of us can define it without having got that information passed to us from somewhere else first. Is every essay written on a topic going to be a copy of those before it? And yeah, pretty much, when they are made with the intent to be educational on a pre-existing topic, that is, which is exactly what happened here. Whether anyone cares to believe it or not, I never intentionally set out to rip off OSP's video on unreliable narrators. I am simply a creator in the same niche who wanted to do their own video on the exact same topic. I have since changed the name of the video so it doesn't so damnably align with Overly Sarcastic Productions, and I've added references to the video description so it's more easily accessible which sources I used to get my information, which is about as much as I can do without taking the video down. I worked as hard to make my video as OSP did to make theirs and gather their information, so I don't believe that I should be punished for the fact that theirs was out first or they already have a larger audience. Which sounds pretty full of myself. Their video is better put together, but I'm speaking towards the principle of the thing. It has happened before that two artists entirely unaware of one another and their work can produce near identical pieces when given the same prompt, so it's no wonder that such a formulaic thing like a video essay could suffer the same consequences. Thus brings me to the question, where do I go from here? Is my existence invalid? Must I give up and compromise my interests because the niche I've come by earnestly on my own is already too saturated? What's the answer here? I could continue to do my own thing. I could even more so actively go out of my way to avoid other content in my niche to ensure that everything I create is made in a vacuum and I can feel justified in making it, as it's entirely, indisputably my own creation. But clearly that's not going to work because it's already failed. I never set out to copy OSP's video, and yet even I can admit that stumbling upon it, it looks almost identical. Doing things in a vacuum won't ensure anything so long as we're in the same niche, making the same content on the same genre of topics. This is bound to happen again, almost guaranteed, and I don't know what to do about that. It's unreasonable to expect creators to actively scour the internet for content that could be considered similar to theirs before they even think about making their own, or to limit themselves from creating based on that because then nobody would be allowed to make anything, especially educationally driven content or those in journalism. Like, even T-channels would be held accountable to that law. Facts have to be presented as they are. The only thing we can add is our opinion. And if our opinion is the same as someone else's, are we just obsolete altogether? I don't have a definitive answer to this. All I set out to do in this video was to address the instance of my video's sameness to an already prominent creator, and to let everyone know that it was not deliberate insofar as I actually copied another content creator. I did not, and I will not, ever. The likelihood that not only other people are going to stumble upon my channel and call me a copyright infringer, but that this will probably happen again so long as I remain in the same niche of content is high. There's not much for me to do except to argue toward my innocence, lest I be condemned by the internet at large for being a ripoff, when I'm only trying to be myself. Maybe I will grow farther and branch out and be notably different from everyone else, but for now I guess I'm just a shadow of the giants that came before me. And there's no way to grow past that if I don't keep trying, so I can't stop now, or I'll never realize that potential. I guess to bring this all back around, I'll say that plagiarism and infringement on copyright are bad, and you as a viewer should call that out when you see it. Just please be aware that certain types of content err on the side of repetitive templates or similar formulas, and there is no claim on that. Sometimes creators will mimic each other inherently and not have made their content with any ill intention, even if that's how it appears on the surface. Some people like me do come by it genuinely, apparently. I want people to be concerned about such things, and I don't mind dealing with such accusations because I know I've made my own, albeit less unique than I expected at the time, content. If you follow my channel going forward, please know that everything I make will be something that I made because I am passionate about it and not because I'm trying to mimic another creator. But if there's an instance that feels too coincidental, like this one, I would like to be made aware of it so I can recognize it and adjust it to the best of my ability so this misconception doesn't persist. In the end, I appreciate MS for bringing this to my awareness so I can set the record straight sooner than later. Whether my honesty is to be believed is yet to be seen, however. So I guess that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Thank you very much for listening to my side of this predicament. Please like and subscribe if you believe I'm innocent, I guess. If you'd like to support me and this channel, you can find a link to my socials in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video, which will hopefully have a great deal less controversy. Bye. Oh, and I believe MS was referring to the H Bomber Guy video on plagiarism and YouTube in their accusational comment towards me. I can only speculate that, but I am going to go watch that video and inform myself further too, because I am nothing if not a bucket of good faith. Okay, bye-bye.